Welcome to the Geriatric Millennials. This is Jayme.
And this is Beth.
And we are two oldish, youngish ladies doing our favorite thing today.
We haven't done it for a minute. My list has grown.
Oh, I cannot wait. I always love these. I'm always also, I feel very unprepared every time because I don't like thinking about this.
Yeah.
And when I try, it's like my mind has created a blank. Like it's blacked it out.
Mm-hmm.
It has purposely repressed these memories so that I don't relive them because it's uncomfortable.
Well, we're purging those cringes today.
We are making them so they are forever emblazoned into the interwebs.
Here's the thing. I have a running list of cringes in my notes app. And anytime in the middle of the night, I'm woken up with a jolt of shame and cringe from 1987. I just write it in there. And I was looking back because when we share them, I like highlight them or strike them out. And a lot of them I haven't thought about since we've talked about them. So for me, this is very cathartic.
Okay, great.
It has been like therapy and I don't remember a lot of this stuff anymore.
Okay. Well, I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
I just live my life not remembering mostly until I am forced to recall, and then it's a struggle. So
I just think you live in the positive. You're very present. You don't really dwell in the past.
No.
You're very excited about life and you just look at things and are just like, yes, let's do it. And I think that is very conducive to not remembering cringe.
Yes.
Whereas me, I sit and wallow. So that is like a very great place to be like, wah, wah. You want to remember something great today? Let's think about 1997 when you made that inappropriate joke at school.
Yeah.
It's just so dumb. But I have a couple new ones.
Okay,
and
good.
I have some that are a doozy. And in my age, now that I'm mid-40s-ish, I am forgetting when I tell stories, which is in itself is cringy.
I know.
Right. And I noticed more and more my friends are doing this too. So I often get repeat stories and I just let people tell it. Because my thing is sometimes you need to tell a story more than once. So I think I may have shared this before, but it's still literally bothering me.
Okay.
So back in February, I did a Marla's cookie class.
Okay. Yes.
And I bought some cookies for my little intern and I love Marla's cookies. I think they're delicious. I just had some other sugar cookies at a graduation party, which were delicious, but they were not Marla's. And for whatever reason, she has a very nice almond flavored cookie. I don't know. It just does it for me.
Okay.
Thinking about it now, I'm going to end up at a farmer's market soon trying to find cookies. Anywho, so I go to this cookie class where she teaches you how to decorate cookies. She's our local cookie lady. She makes this delicious, icing that you float and you pipe and all these cute things. And anyway, I know I shared about this, but at the end of it, you could buy cookies from her, nice ones. I'm not going to give someone my janky cookies that I hand did. Let's just be real. So I bought some nice cookies and she had just a little Venmo, not Venmo. It was Venmo, but it was you just Venmo'd her the thing. So you scan a code and you Venmo her. I requested money. And I got an email that was she declined it, right? Because
she's no, I'm not paying
I'm not paying you $5
to take my
cookies. My dumb ass read it wrong. And so I messaged her back, hey, it looks like you canceled my transaction. If it doesn't come through in the next day or two, I'll send you it again. Complete moron.
This is making me laugh so hard.
And the worst part was I read that email at nighttime when I was already slowing down for the night, almost right before I went to bed. Did not even really read it in a way that I comprehended.
Yeah.
So I sent the stupid email. And then the next day I'm going back through my emails and realized what I did. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
This is really funny because this is the epitome of middle age.
Yes.
It really is because I could so seeing one of my aunts or somebody doing this.
Not your aunts.
But back in the day when I was young,
I could see
and then I would just be, I could just shake my head that's just,
how do you not know how to just do life?
Yeah.
How can you mess it up that? So anyway, then I don't know what happened, but then I didn't think about it because again, life, I'm doing this in the morning and then I start my day. Totally space. Didn't give her money for a few days. And I'm I am awful. And now I'm in the cookie shame club. So it was just like, I did not want to see her.
Okay, don't stay there though. I think
I'm not going to stay there because I need a cookie now. Like it's been since February and now I'm like, it's summer.
Oh, it is time.
And I want a cookie.
I need to get some Marla's cookies.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. She has so many great events and like, anyway, she's always at the farmers markets on Sundays. So
I need to get myself some Marla's cookies as well.
It's just, really been heavy on my heart. And I think it's just more like symptomatic of me like not being fully aware and, of my actions as an elderly person.
I love it though.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's making me smile.
I know, but I'm feeling it right now in my body, the cringe. Another thing about cringe that I love is that it can be something so small that cringes you out and you know what I mean? And then other things will happen that are big and nothing.
Right.
Like, oh, I should have been embarrassed, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
And then there's like the littlest thing and it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm humiliated.
Yeah. Right. Because that really isn't a big deal.
No. And she's understanding. And it's like, I bought cookies from her for years.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a big deal. Yet,
but that is funny. Yet.
Cookie shame.
I love that. Okay, so that reminds me of one.
Okay.
No, this is not my own personal.
Oh, I freaking love other people's cringe.
Okay. So, I'm trying to figure out how to tell this so that it doesn't give any clue of like who this person is.
Fair.
I was hosting something at my home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was from 7 to 9.
Okay.
And so usually like the hour before, I'm trying to make sure everybody's fed. Like I've got dinner going on. And then when they're done, I'm like trying to I'm basically like cleaning up as they finish eating. Cause I'm just like, I want everything put away. I want everything done by the time people show up to my house. Right. And it's, it's a weekday. I've got just life happening and I want things to be, I want to feel good about having a bunch of people in my space. I don't want, somebody's underwear on the floor and socks. I mean, what is it about socks? I don't know. There's socks all over my house. People take off their socks, my children and my husband take off their socks wherever they're sitting in the living room or wherever. And then they just leave them there. I'm like, what are you doing? Anyways, so I want to make sure there's not like socks on the coffee table or under the pillow on the couch, just things, tidying up. So, but I can't do that until we're done. We're ready for right before is when I have the time to do that. So anyways, it starts at 7. Well, somebody shows up at my house at 6:30.
Oh no.
Which is not a big deal, but also it was really funny and also cringy because she's like there for a while and just like normal, like not like acknowledging that she's early in any way, right? And so I'm thinking, oh, she thought it was at 6:30, which is totally fine. Yeah. I'm not gonna make her feel bad.
I need you to sit out in your
car. No, not at all. But anyways, so I'm trying to clean up and do stuff and we're visiting and stuff. And she's just like, where, after a while, I don't know, 15, 20, she's 20 minutes later, she's like, where is everybody? Why is everybody so late?
Oh no.
And she's like, she just made a couple comments like that. Why am I the only one here? Where is everyone? Why are they so late? And I was just like, well, it starts at 7. And she was just like her jaw dropped. And she was just she was like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing this whole time? Cause she was just acting like she had this attitude, why aren't people here? Anyway, it's really funny to me because honestly, it wasn't a big deal to me and I'm comfortable. I mean, she was a friend and people can come to my house. It does not have to be in perfect condition. I'm fine with that. But it was just funny because I wasn't quite ready yet. And she was just had that attitude, right? And so it's just kind of one of those, because when she found out, she was just I am so mortified.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was so embarrassed. And of course I was like, it's no big deal. I think it's funny, just laughing about it. And now here it is.
Here we go.
Here I am sharing it on the internet. So if you're listening, you know who you are.
Yeah. And it wasn't a big deal. So let it go.
It wasn't a big deal at all.
Hopefully you haven't thought about it since. And if you're thinking about it now, don't worry about it.
No problem.
Nobody knows it's you.
Oh, but it's that feeling of just it's one thing to just be early, but it's another thing to be so convinced that you're in the right and everyone else is wrong. Only to find out
that's
that you're
one
of
the worst moments of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have that feeling of
Oh, it's me. Hi,
It's me.
I'm the problem.
Oh, so
that's
good.
Okay. So I'm going to share someone else's cringe, which gave me so much anxiety. It's not even funny. So this was years back. My family was all in town to take my grandpa. I think it was around his 100th birthday. So we had all of my cousins were in town and all the families around. And so we go to this fancy restaurant and we're in this it's okay. I should say fancy. It's our town fancy. So let's lower. It's one step above an Applebee's. And so we're sitting at this big table and it's fine. And, we're eating whatever. And we have this waiter that's kind of going around and helping and whatever. And then all of a sudden the waiter comes over and we've all kind of finished, but we're not quite to paying, and he's like, hey, has anybody seen a credit card here? And we're like, no. And so he had been serving at another table. You know how they'll take, the servers will have all the the book of whatever that they have with the receipt and the pin and the card.
Yes.
And they'll have it in their little front pouch.
Yes.
He had
Apron.
a bunch of those.
Yes.
And so I guess a card got dropped or something. And oh, my anxiety. I could barely sit still because I was so concerned. This man looked like he was going to get fired. And he was looking panicked. We are our table starts searching for the card. He's looking for the card everywhere. This is going on for 15 minutes.
Oh.
And
that feels stressful.
It was so stressful and it was so cringy of just oh my gosh, I feel so uncomfortable in my skin right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says about me and whatever, but it was such an uncomfortable situation and the look on his face was so pained and I just couldn't deal with it. And they were still looking for it as we finally left. And I was maybe it fell in my purse. I don't know. But it was just so cringy and I felt so bad for him. And I don't know if it was cringy or not actually, but it just felt cringy.
Well, it's uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable. But I just I hate situations where I'm not involved in the situation, but tangentially I'm involved because I'm close enough to it.
Oh, that's a great word.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes my vocabulary is okay. And don't come at me if I pronounced it wrong. I was a bookworm as a kid, so I know a lot of words. I just don't know how to pronounce them.
Yeah.
Okay? But yeah, I just hate that moment when you're close to the cringe.
Yeah.
So it's the cringe is leaking over and you shouldn't claim any of it because it's not your cringe to hold.
Yeah.
But it still leaches into your life. So anyway, I've never been back to the restaurant. Yeah, that one was not that fun.
No. I feel like that kind of cringe feeling I have experienced in different situations having to do with parenting.
Oh, yeah.
Well, number one, just my own parenting, and then just feeling if my kid is not, especially when they were younger, responding to me or, doing what I want them to do in a public place or what I tell them to do. It's not a good feeling. And when people are witness to that, and then you're having to try to discipline your kids and deal with those situations in a public place where people are observing you, it's so uncomfortable. It's hard, especially when you're a new parent and you don't really actually know what the heck to do.
Yeah.
And you also can't control your kid because they're their own person and you can't force them to comply or do things anyway. So there's been those kind of situations, but I think it's almost as bad or maybe even worse when you are close to somebody else who's in that situation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In a grocery store.
Throwing the tantrum and you're part of you is oh my gosh, I feel for that mother. You're blah, 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 blah. And the other party's I need you to be quiet now. Okay, it's been 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of situations and I can't even think of a specific example, but I'm sure anybody who's listening has had that experience of just you feel uncomfortable and you just feel, mostly I will identify with the parent, but occasionally I'm just the way that parent's handling it is not helping at all. It's making it worse. Or if they're shaming the kid.
Yeah.
It's so...
It's so challenging.
It is so challenging. It's almost painful. So I don't know if that's actually cringe. It's more just
I don't know. It's like a cringe cousin because it's uncomfortable and cringe is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
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 Okay. I have another uncomfortable moment for you. This one is a doozy. And again, if I've shared this before in our private life or here on the podcast, I apologize. But this is a cringe that stuck with me.
Okay.
The year's 2002. and I am in college. I'm living in the South Loop of Chicago in my own little studio apartment. It's super cute. It's like in a condo building. And I just think I'm, the bee's knees. I have like an outdoor patio that's like this wood balcony thing. And I'm on the 3rd floor, but my balcony sits on top of the roof. So there's not like a drop. It's just like this comes in to be important later. So in college, I worked a lot. I went to college full time and then I worked full time. And so usually on Friday nights, I was working until like 7 or 8. I would get off, I would get food, and I would go home and I would watch what they used to have called Sci Friday on the Sci-Fi Network, where they had all these sci-fi shows. And that to me was a wild time in college. Okay. So I got some McDonald's and I immediately, when I get home immediately, it usually is bra off, pajamas. I'm ready to go, yoga pants, whatever.
Ready to go to your couch.
Yeah. And watch my shows and eat my snacks. And this is smartphone. So it's all I had was my TV.
Yeah.
So I get the McDonald's, I get home and I change out of my my work clothes and I'm just in yoga pants, short cropped yoga pants and an army t-shirt, but I had my bra on. And it was really, really windy. It's this big windstorm. And so I opened my back door to go to the balcony because I have this giant gas grilling range that my aunt bought me as kind of like a gift for the apartment.
Oh.
Except I don't grill. I didn't really eat meat back then. And it didn't have a propane tank that was full. And so it was not really anchored, right?
Okay.
So it's really windy out there. And I hear it going around, blah, 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 hitting the sides. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go take care of that. And I think actually it fell over. So I go outside and I prop it back up. And the door's closed. I'm like, okay. So I prop it back up. I go inside to get my McDonald's. The door is locked to my house.
Oh no. You got locked on your balcony?
I'm locked on my balcony in Chicago. It's not like summer. It's not spring. I know it wasn't where I'd freeze probably that night, but it's not ideal. No shoes on, thankfully bra on. And I'm like, oh my gosh. There's no one to knock for because I live by myself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so I had climbed over my balcony. Now, thankfully, again, I'm on the 3rd floor, but it's on top of the roof of the building beneath me.
Okay.
So it's not like if I fell, I would die.
Okay.
It's probably a 2-foot drop to the things. But I climb over my wood balcony around a fence onto my neighbor's balcony.
Oh.
And have I met my neighbor? Not really. And so
you're just going to knock on their door from the balcony?
There's no other option. There's no escape. I don't have a phone. There's
what do you even do?
In front,
you can't stay on your balcony forever.
And my balcony, it's on the backside of a building, so there's a wall. So I can't yell to people downstairs to go get someone.
Oh,
so gosh. I start, and there's only 5 apartments on that row.
This sounds like a nightmare.
I was freaked out. So now I'm getting actually a little cold. It wasn't cold, but it was my fingertips and toes are a little cold. So I hoist my body over, trying not to fall the 2 feet down, to the ground, get over there. And I start tapping on the door. Now, nobody's expecting someone to be at their back door because it's we're very secluded. There's no public access.
It's a patio.
And there's no way to access it. So I'm knocking. And finally this guy opens the door and he's like, hey. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I got locked out on my balcony. Can I please just go through your house? And he's like, yeah. And so it was him. And then his girlfriend was in the back. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And I'm freezing now. And I'm just so thankful I have a bra on, but I don't have any shoes on. And I didn't have a pedicure. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. So I walk down to the lobby and I asked the doorman, hey, can you help me out? And he's like, well, usually this would be an emergency, but we'll help you out.
You're it is an emergency.
But he's like, usually we charge you $50. I was like, I'm in college. You better not charge me $50. So anyway, he's like, just go wait and I'll send some over there. So I go back to my apartment. I'm waiting there. The guy comes and I'm just so awkwardly standing there and whatever. So they let me back in and I'm starting to eat. I'm like, oh my gosh. And my McDonald's fries are cold at this point. The whole night's ruined. Yeah. And I start to plate my food and I'm like, oh my gosh. And what I realized is when I knocked on that guy's door, I was just so nervous about not being locked out the whole night. I didn't realize he and his girlfriend were in his bedroom. She was on her knees.
Okay.
In every way that I'm saying. And I interrupted a very private moment. And I didn't realize it at the time, thankfully, because like it didn't make it awkward because clearly they knew I didn't, like it was clear I was just like, whatever. And they had actually invited me in for a second.
That's why they didn't come right away to the door.
Yeah. And so I just remember, I have such a vivid memory of her on her knees, like tossing her hair back and like collecting herself after the fact. And then there's me just wanting my French fries. And I was just like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to look at this man in his face again, knowing that I interrupted him like mid.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, that was like, I don't think I ever went out on my balcony again. And if I did, I made sure the door was unlocked and I propped it open. Like it was uncomfortable. I did run into him a couple of times, but it was not too bad. But I couldn't believe that I didn't, like that's me in life though. I'm oblivious to so many things like that. I've been in so many situations where something's going down. I don't even notice, you know?
Yeah.
I remember watching, like, my mom and I were watching the Super Bowl together when Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake were performing. And we're like, you know, the whole boob incident happened. We watched the whole thing, didn't see it at all. And it was like, I was like, the next day people were like, can you believe what happened? I'm like, what happened? My eyes were glued to the screen. I just sometimes just don't see stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you're such a weirdo. I feel good getting out. Every once in a while that will like flash in my head like, oh my gosh, idiot.
Yeah. I liked listening to that story though, because I could picture it all.
It was so bad. And the only saving grace was that I had a bra on. If I had like not had a bra on, I was so, because at that time I was real like churchy, like just coming out of some weird stuff. So it's just like, I probably would have felt so immodest that I wouldn't have wanted to like go get help. And I just would have like
spent the night out there.
Just froze on my balcony because out of shame. Yeah.
Gosh.
So anyway.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, cringe. I felt good though.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, this is shifting gears. This is a very, very different type of cringe.
Okay.
But again, I think mine are just going to involve other people this round. And this is an experience of being at a restaurant with people. Mm-hmm. And how do I say this in a way? Okay, so when it's time for the bill comes. Mm-hmm. And if it's been offered or understood that somebody else is paying. Yeah. Okay, so that's the setup. And then they proceed to either not tip or tip really poorly.
Yeah.
I don't like that feeling.
No.
And it feels so cringy because it's like, I want to tip better. And mm-hmm. because I like to tip like appropriately. And I don't think the intention because there's a few incidents that I'm thinking of. I don't think the intention was because they thought the service was poor or anything like that. It was more of just a cultural thing mm-hmm. that they're used to. And it just made me feel like I didn't know what to do because I was like, I wanted to like leave more, but I didn't want to make them feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But also I felt uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like it was just cringy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. It is hard to be with a small tipper or a no tipper.
Or even... I think that's when I have felt it the most. Like if most of the time things are split and then people just are on their own. I don't even know what they tip and that's totally fine. But
well, if I'm with a low tipper or a no tipper and we split, I always tip more, mm-hmm. even more than my fair share, just because I don't want it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is cringe.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah,
you just feel like just tip appropriately. But what is appropriate for some people, like in some countries, is different than other countries, you know?
Absolutely.
And
not even countries, literally here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, some people are like, I think too, it depends, like if you were raised in a city or if you lived in a city.
Yeah.
I feel like you tend to tip more like a big city than like here.
Yeah.
Like I see a lot of 10%ers, but it's just like when I'm with my friends and family from bigger cities, it's more like 20, 25. Mm-hmm. So, mm-hmm. yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting?
It's very interesting.
But I will say that I'm also, on the flip side of that, super annoyed when I'm asked for a tip without any service.
Yes.
Like for example, like at a place where I'm just like picking something up, like from a display case.
Yeah.
and going to pay for it. And then I'm asked for a tip. And I'm like, no, I went and got that myself. Like, I just don't feel like that's the appropriate place to tip. And maybe things are changing now and like people need that more, or businesses. I don't know, but it irritates me as a customer because I'm just like, what am I tipping for here?
Yeah. I hear you.
Does that make me rude or like a bad tipper?
I don't think so. I think it depends on the situation, right?
Also, do you tip for like a takeout situation because my understanding is that you're tipping for service. Although those tips are shared with kitchen staff and they're shared with, and so there are people working there in the service industry, but it's not like they're serving me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Here's my philosophy.
Yeah.
When in doubt, tip it out. A lot of times I just do like the 15 or 10% or whatever. I feel worse when there's literally no anything. It's just like you said, if I'm picking up something from a counter and I'm just paying for it and you turn it and you're like, give me a tip. Usually I'm like, no tip. But it's like, my favorite Thai place, if I go there and they wrap up the food and it was fast, I usually just give like a little 10% or whatever. Yeah. Typically, it's not that much. So
but
it's
like, more of a gray area. It's not the
great.
same as a sit-down restaurant where you're being served and they're bringing you water and they're bringing you things to ask for and all of that. But like in a or even like a retail place that is not what I consider like a service. It's just, and then it's like there's a place for a tip and I'm confused by that. I'm like, what is happening?
I feel sometimes that way at my local bakery because I'm asking them to just put the croissant in the bag.
Yeah.
And then it's like, do you want to give us 20 more %? And I was like,
no,
not really, because you didn't make anything for
That's
me.
what I mean.
Yeah,
those kind of situations.
I totally get it. I always just play it by ear, but yeah, it's complicated and it can feel awkward and weird and cringy.
Let's do an episode on that.
We'll that
might be
tipping.
Its own thing. Tipping. Let's
cringe.
talk about yes.
If you're enjoying the podcast and would like to support the show, you can share episodes with your friends and family, follow us on Instagram at the Geriatric Millennials, or leave us a positive review and rating, all which help us to grow. Our theme music was created by the Finley Ghost. Check out their latest album now. Thank you so much.